What's up, everybody? Welcome to Friday night from the forum. Man, I got a crew here with me. We are here to rip it up tonight. We're talking about some hot takes, some heaters, some NFL news, and you're not gonna want to miss this one. I've got some great folks in with me. I'm just gonna give them a second, real quick, to introduce themselves. Matt, hit us off.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Babbage. I write for Player Profiler as well as being half of the Dynasty Roundtable podcast with Seth Dewald over on YouTube. And apologies in advance, AT&T has screwed me over, so if I come through a bit choppy, you can blame them.
Blame the corporations.
Always blame the corporations, right? I'll follow that up. My name's Steve. My internet provider did not screw me over, so thank you, Verizon. We'll give you a little shameless plug here. I write for IBT. I do a lot of entertainment over there, and I'm also on their Tuesday Night Fantasy Football podcast every week. You can catch me there and jump in and tell me how awful I am and how I don't know shit about football anytime you want. So I'm going to prove what little I know here tonight.
I love it. And Tyler, we're finally back together again. We've had 2 weeks apart.
I know, man. 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, you hosted by yourself. Last week, it was me and 3 jabronis. No, I'm just kidding. It was a great show. Yeah, man. It's been crazy. The NFL's been crazy. We got Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson quarterback competition. We got Russell Wilson carrying the Giants and Malik Neighbors fantasy season on his shoulders. Geno Smith gets to rejoin Pete Carroll in Las Vegas, and he got paid to do it, and now we have this new Derek Carr, conundrum where the Saints may have been thinking about potentially taking a quarterback in the draft. Now I almost wonder if they're forced to, or are they brave enough to run one more year with Spencer Rattler? What do you think?
I got to tell you this. So here's my idea, right? If you're the New Orleans Saints, why not, right? There's no one in this draft that you're looking at that really warrants trading up for. There's no one in this draft that warrants a reach. Why not give it to Spencer Rattler? Worst case scenario, which in this case isn't all that bad, you're awful and you get the number 1 pick and you just get Arch Manning next year. What are you competing for right now? Your roster's a mess. Your cap situation's a mess. Derek Carr needs to go, right? So you got another year off of his contract. He's probably much easier to move next season. Why not give the keys to Spencer Rattler? Best case scenario, you got something there. And he shows, you know what? I am the QB of the future. Great. Or he's terrible and you're the worst team in the league. Great. Either way, I feel like the Saints can't lose.
Yeah, I think I saw something today that said with them, they did some cap maneuvering because, like you said, they've been kicking the can on their cap for what seems like pretty much since the salary cap was invented. And I believe that they said next year our cap hit should be like $69 million. Nice. So to me, it's just like you need to bite that bullet. I think they have too many holes on that team to really go for it. I would rather secure a position of a premium talent in this draft and not try to force the issue. I know there's a lot of people that have been like, oh, like Shedeur Sanders, he's already worn the black and gold. Let him go to New Orleans, do his thing. I don't think that it really fits. They just added a new head coach, so there's not the urgency to go out and get a quarterback in the draft. I think at the earliest that they would consider it is if you see like a dart in the second round or something like that, and the value may just be too good for them to pass up. I don't really see it. I think that they go defensive line in this draft because they need it, and maybe they'll finally get their cap under control at least a little bit.
So, Matt,
Aaron Rodgers is waiting for calls.
That is true.
Said Aaron Rodgers is waiting for calls.
It is true.
You can achieve best of both worlds. You can tank and not have to watch Spencer Rattler play football.
I don't know if they could afford him, though, is the only thing.
I mean, does the city of New Orleans really need another disaster? Like, Aaron Rodgers is really not the kind of guy. Like, why put them through that?
Let me throw you this grandiose theory, okay? So 3 teams in the NFL have potentially devastating seasons ahead of them with quarterback conundrums, and they are 3 teams that could potentially take quarterbacks in this year's draft. And no, it's not the Steelers, so you can
Okay.
So Giants, obviously we know it's a mess. Russell Wilson, Jameis, they don't care. I think that they're just going to go play, have fun, lose games, move on, right? Giants. Colts, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, still not good, Then now, Derek Carr and the Saints. Now, there is one tie to all 3 of these teams, and it is a singular last name. That last name being Manning. Regime quarterbacks, Archie, Saints, Giants, Eli, Colts, Peyton.
That's crazy.
So could they essentially just be going, we don't care. We're just going to play. We're not going to take a quarterback this year because we're all 3 in on tank for the namesake.
Why is everybody so big on Arch? I just want to get that out there on recording. Like, the kid's thrown like 12 passes in college.
It doesn't matter. It's called a last name. The last name.
I think it's more that what you've seen out of him has been more than you're certainly seeing out of these quarterbacks this year. Maybe Cam Ward has an argument like that he's gotten a little underhyped, but Arch is just like, the talent is there. He's athletic. He's got the arm. He's got the pedigree. He's got the namesake. He'll sell you a ton of jerseys at the very least.
Sure.
I'm not necessarily sold that he may be the top quarterback in next year's draft. You never know, right? Who knows who comes out and looks the number 1, but it's got to be better than what we're getting right now. Like, I mean, this draft is an absolute mess. And when it comes to quarterback, like Cam Ward, for as good as he looked at times, looked equally as bad at other times, and should be nowhere near the top pick in most drafts. But here we are, and now he's the number 1 pick, essentially.
Sure.
Chev would absolutely kill me for saying this. As you know, he is a huge Shedeur fan. But, you talk about namesake. I mean, it's only a conversation because Dion, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like if it's any other year and it's not tied to some big name, some giant pedigree, it's what do we have? Like even like his interviews, like if you listen to the interviews or how he talks to teams, it's like this ultimate confidence. Like you get a lot of Dion in the way he there's GMs are not going, oh man, I'm so excited for this to be a pinnacle piece. It's like, would you sign, if you could go back, would you sign up again for the Lonzo Ball madness, in the NBA? Right. It's like, do you want that? Right? Like, I don't know, right. Matt, maybe you've got a different opinion. Do you think Shedeur can be a pinnacle quarterback in the NFL?
I think he can. I think there's similarities between him and Ward to where there's a lot of untapped potential there, but there's a lot of risk. I don't think a head coach like Brian Dable, for example, who's coaching for his job in New York, is going to be over the moon about taking a Shedeur Sanders type, because there is that floor there. We saw the tendencies at Colorado that translate to trouble in terms of quarterback prospects, but at the same time, quarterbacking is a lot about the situation that you're put in. And if Shedeur, takes this seriously, goes to work, we saw enough arm talent to where if he gets into the right situation and gets molded by a competent staff with a good surrounding, he could really become a good starter in the league. I think you just have to start pinpointing where the realistic landing spots for him in the draft and do those organizations mimic something that could mold him into a serviceable starter, and that's where I gain less confidence.
The crazy thing is, like, that narrative though, I struggle with it a little bit, and this is a very open conversation, but I struggle with that because you have Anthony Richardson, who blew off the combine. I mean, just like an extremely athletic guy, right? He goes into a Shane Steichen system, who basically, Herbert hurt, like Jalen Hurts, like, it just is a parent viewed as like a key cog development type piece for any offense when it comes to molding a quarterback, right? So he gets Anthony Richardson, a premium athlete. All you have to do is really mold the quarterback. And we're still sitting here going, could Anthony Richardson do it? And I was down on, I was never a fan of Anthony Richardson. I've said it the last 3 shows, talked about it. I've always been out on Anthony Richardson, but you believe separate, like, because obviously Shedeur isn't as much legs and running as probably Anthony Richardson. You believe Shedeur is able to be developed in NFL caliber?
I think so, yeah. And I think NFL caliber, what is that? Because with some of the quarterbacks that we got that got starts last year, Anthony Richardson is an NFL caliber quarterback right now. He's just not a very good one.
Well, we're talking relevance, but yeah, I know I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I think one thing that the NFL's kind of lost the plot on is if you're having to say, oh, if this guy goes to the right situation, if he gets time to develop, if he goes to this, if he doesn't, that's not a first round guy. Like, period, end of story. You can't burn a first round pick on a guy who needs all these things to go right for him to be serviceable, right? Like, Anthony Richardson, I will say, I still am kind of a truther of what he could be. I do think he's in a situation where that offense just doesn't really fit any of what he does well. When he first started his rookie year, it seemed like they built the offense around him. And then last year, it looked like they kind of built the offense for Joe Flacco a bit and were like, learn it. And it doesn't play to any of his strengths. Like, he really is like a touchdown or check down kind of thrower. And they're living in that intermediate space in Indianapolis way, way too much. Those need to be RPO, single read, get the ball out of his hands, or let him launch it downfield kind of things. But Shedeur Sanders, there's no elite traits to Shedeur Sanders' game. Not one. No one can point. I've asked a million different people, what is he elite at? And no one can point to one thing. He has an average arm at best. He has average accuracy. He processes the game kind of at a slow pace. He's not a great athlete, takes too many sacks. People are like, he doesn't throw interceptions. I'm like, because he was getting sacked the entire time. Rather than throw an interception, he'd just take a 15-yard loss. And in college, you can make up for that when you have Travis Hunter. But at the NFL level, you cannot. You take a 15-yard loss, you might as well just punt the ball away. So I don't really know why we're like, I do think it's a bit of a Dion effect. Like, that team was built around Shedeur looking half decent. Half of his passes were within 5 yards. Even Dion didn't trust him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes for sure. I think that the whole like situation thing, even with Anthony Richardson, I think the biggest thing for him was like the mental aspect of the game. He had all the physical tools, but he was very boisterous about like how easy the game was going to be for him. He was like, oh, the NFL is going to be slow. The NFL is going to be that. And he hasn't shown that. I think that a lot of times, especially with black quarterbacks that show confidence, it's almost shown as like a negative in a lot of situations. But like, I want my quarterback to come in and say like, hey, like, yeah, I'm going to be great. I'm going to do these things. So it's like, to me, I don't see that as a knock for Shedeur. So I'm curious to see where he lands. The one thing I will say about him potentially going to the Giants, he was very used to having no offensive line in Colorado. Pretty much as soon as he got the ball, he had someone in his face. That'll be very similar for him if he does end up with the Giants, because their offensive line has been atrocious for years.
No, that's a fair assessment. And Anthony Richardson, we talk about it, it's a little bit of a search, right? Like, it's kind of that combine effect where, we saw it with Zach Wilson, right? Like, he's very mid all season, like through his career, very mid. And then he gets in the combine, he makes that one throw off his back foot, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, like Zach Wilson.
And now everybody does that throw at the combine every year.
Right. It's like, and freaking, Sam Darnold made the same throw. Like, there's like so many guys, and like Sam Darnold did it in games, it's like you get that. And it's like Anthony Richardson wasn't even considered at the tier he was until he had that combine showing. And,
Right.
The combine shows, and then all of a sudden, here we go. The narrative lifts. And so it's a byproduct of that. I think it was unrealistic expectations. I think that this year it's a lot of I agree, Brent. This quarterback class is tough. It's a lot of searching, right? There's not a lot of real meat there, and so they're searching. And I would say Cam Ward's probably the closest we got.
I actually think the QB1 in this class is going to wind up in that black and gold as it's Jackson Dart.
I don't
that's the
mind
guy I'd
Dart.
want out of this desk. That's the guy I'd want out of this draft.
I'm good with it. I'm good with the Dart call. That my only thing is, so it's funny. Everybody was relating Shadur to Bo Callahan from Draft Day, and I watched this show this morning. Or this movie this morning. I'm a fan. I know how it's going to end every single time, and I still watch it. But Jackson Dart is Bo Callahan to me. He's got the arm. He can make the throws. But if he starts getting pummeled, he loses himself. And
that's a lot of quarterbacks, though. That's more quarterbacks than we want to admit. That's Patrick Mahomes, too. I hate to say that, but that's true.
Patrick Mahomes still manages to fight through the night. Patrick Mahomes
does he? Because every time we've watched him get his ass whooped, it turns into an absolute slaughter because he can't handle it. No quarterback can. And I'm not saying it's just Mahomes. Most quarterbacks can't handle that. It's like a weird narrative.
There's a difference, though, in stepping up to perform in those moments. Mahomes is getting sacked. He's half sideways, and he's still trying to throw the ball down the field. And then there's the difference of I've gotten sacked a few times. Now I'm scared to throw. Now I'm underthrowing because I'm nervous. And it's those jitters. That's the difference.
Right.
And I think Mahomes has that, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to come on the field. I'm going to be limping. I'm still going to try to do me. He never loses the confidence. And that's when Jackson Dart starts getting hammered, right? Then he falls into that, he loses that confidence space. And so I think that he's probably, him and Ward have the most potential to be something, unless we get a crazy Brock Purdy story somewhere in here from somebody taking, I feel like the Titans could take a deep, if they don't go quarterback at 1, they could take a deep guy and just quarterback battle Levis and any Quinn Ewers, who knows, anybody, and then that person potentially get a Brock Purdy style shot at playing quarterback. But anyways, man, freaking love the offseason. Love rookies. Love the drama. It's so much fun.
And then we're gonna look back and be like, yeah, of course we should have realized that Tyler Shuck was gonna be the best quarterback of the bunch. How did we miss the signs? It's gonna be something super random.
That's a pro day riser right there.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Cool. I mean, who knows? Nobody was saying Brock Purdy was going to be the guy. So, we get in here and we have these conversations, and there's a possibility we hit somebody. And I'm really looking forward to our next section here coming up after the Advice Network. But that's it, right? We get in here and we have these conversations, you make your calls, but it's still a little bit of a surprise, and players surprise us. And that's exciting about it, because you can't, no matter how much you try, you can't map it, right? And so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the class, I'm especially looking forward to the running back class. I think that there is a ton of running back talent in this draft. I think that you're going to be able to get a ton of guys in your 3rd, your 5th round, of your rookie drafts that could see year 1, production. We got Dadbot in the house. Brady Cook could be a diamond in the rough. Sure, maybe. Why not?
I think that's good.
So anyways, as you guys know, this show is brought to you by the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, and we always take a snippet, just a moment, to hop over to the social media platform for fantasy sports and answer a question or two. So we're going to do that now. Let's see here.
We are here. We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to fantasysportsadvice.com today.
All right, and this one comes from Texas Trojan 2004, and it's a bit of a long one, so you guys may have to kind of read there on screen. So it's 10-team PPR Superflex. Running backs are Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, and Ramondre Stevenson. I'm good at quarterback and tight end. My best receivers are QJ, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen.
Yikes.
I have the 1-1, 1-3, 1-9, and a couple early seconds. He said, should I just build through the draft since I need so many wide receivers, or would you be trying to trade those picks for players? This kind of hits at the crux of like some people's different styles of playing. Like some people don't like picks. They don't like the risk. And the picks bring so much value at draft time. You know, so like here, your 1-1 or your 1-3, like these could bring you multiple players that can add to your roster immediately. Or you take the shot if you believe in somebody and you get 3 young studs that are going to essentially be the pinnacle pieces of your team, because at 1, 3, and 9, that's highly possible. So, Matt, you kind of start us off based on this team structure, based on those picks. Which way are you going about it?
I mean, I'm certainly going to be looking to maybe pivot off my 103. 101 is Genty, you know, there we're taking it to the bank. But maybe the 103, it's kind of a lame answer, but I'm always somebody who's, you know, just explore your options. Like, I don't think you should be closed off to either route, nor should you 100% go either direction just based off that information. You know, it's all about the market value and knowing your league. If you're able to help out your team by trading, you know, a 1-9, because as much as we love to hype up every class that comes in, 1-9 through 112, still more of a crapshoot than we would like to admit. So if you can pivot off of, you know, the 1-9 for a younger receiver, maybe you can figure out like a trade for like a Ladd McConkey, like trading like a 109, maybe in a future third. I don't know if that's enough to get it done these days. Ladd McConkey's pretty hyped up, but as an example. So I'm probably doing a mix of both, trying to build through the draft, but also see trading back to 1-3 to 1-7, something similar to that. So I'm probably keeping some picks and trying to trade some others.
Nice. What about you, Joe?
I think the biggest thing, especially in a dynasty format, is knowing your league and knowing what the impacts are. How many players am I going to start? How many teams are in the league? So the more teams that you have, the more players that you're playing, depth becomes more important, because when you get into those larger leagues, you're not going to have as many options to pick up on waivers. You're going to be playing a lot more lesser value people in your flex. In a 10-team league super flex, you want guys like Genty. So to me, I agree with Matt. I'm holding on to that 101. If I'm looking at like the list of folks that I have, I'm looking at trading Chase Brown, who was a 5th-round pick. I'm looking at trading Bucky, who was a 4th-round pick and is really high. Stevenson, I don't think he commands enough value to really move at this point. Had the fumble issues last year, so people are going to be down on him. Matt's a Patriots fan, but I think he would advocate that he's probably not going to lose his spot, and fumbles kind of vary year over year, so it's not something that we're necessarily worried about. But in a tough draft where you're looking to secure receivers, and like that's where you really have problems, like there's nobody on that group that I would want to start. Like having Mike Williams as a top 3 receiver for you when he played like 3 snaps a game for the Steelers last year, like that's super tough, right? So it's like, how am I accumulating receivers who from a dynasty perspective are going to be a lot more long-term because they have a little bit longer of a shelf life. So it's like, if I'm not getting maybe a 1st-round pick out of Chase Brown because of all of the news about the Bengals visiting on a bunch of different running backs, maybe I can trade him and like player for player, and then I'm still replenishing that running back room with the draft picks. Because I would rather have a 1st or 2nd round guy from the draft than somebody that had one good year as a 5th-round pick. So I think Genty, just given the firepower that he has, definite go. If maybe I wouldn't trade the 103 until I see what happens on draft day, because let's say that like Amari and Hampton goes 2, you need a receiver. If you feel really good about Tet, then that seems like a really good position for you to be in. But say Tet goes 2, then it's like, all right, do I want to force into another running back? It seems like it's a rebuilding situation. I'd rather attack running backs at the end of a rebuild than at the start.
We think.
So I like both ideas. I also think trading Chase Brown is probably your best option at this point. Bucky Irving, I think, might have a stronger hold on that position than Chase Brown does. But Chase Brown is kind of a darling right now, right? People love him. He's just kind of like, he was this all-purpose back last year, got 100% of the touches for like 8 straight weeks or something stupid like that. And I'm noticing he has a couple early seconds. What I'd do is I would trade Chase Brown and maybe that 109 for, like, I think that's probably what Ladd McConkey is going for right about now. So I would probably do that. Those early seconds, I'd go after a guy like Chris Godwin, who's coming off a pretty gnarly injury. Trade those early seconds. Go get that established guy who's still got 5, 6, 7 good years left in the league, I think. Probably closer to 5, like, really good years left. And second round picks to me, for the most part, are still dart throws, right? I know this is a super flex, but in a weak draft, those seconds are worth even less than normal. I would be looking to add vets this season, move off of Chase Brown, maybe move off of Bucky Irving. See if you can't get maybe a receiver that is okay and a future pick. That 101, 103, I'm going Genty. If your quarterbacks are good, you're going Genty. You're going Tet McMillan. 1-3, I think, in those situations. I do think in a super flex league, you're so likely to have Tet McMillan available at the 103 because Cam Ward will probably go at the 2. If not him, Marion Hampton will probably go at the 2. And unless people get real squirrely with it, if for some reason Tet isn't there, then I would trade the 103. I would wait till your draft day to see if he's there, because I do think he is going to be a true, like, number 1 receiver in this league. So that would probably be what I'd do, is I'd trade Chase Brown and those seconds and try to get 2, maybe 3 wide receivers in the deal.
I know you can't necessarily treat it as like gospel, but looking at keep trade cut while you were talking, Chase Brown and like the 13th pick in your draft, that's like equal value right now for Ladd McConkey, who's wide receiver 12 from a fantasy perspective. So I wouldn't do that as a Ladd owner, but I would smash that as a Chase Brown guy.
Might as well shop it out there.
Yeah, this is I love it. I am a big proponent of, whenever you have big draft picks like this, waiting till as close as you can to draft day, if not draft day, to get the most value. Like that 1-9 could net you some juice, right? Like all you have to do is wait till you get to that 9th pick and somebody's guy is sitting there, right? And you've got a little bit of time to like
you just dangle it a little bit.
Yeah. And like people are going to come to you and they're going to be messaging you, and maybe you get a couple of studs, or maybe if you're not getting studs, you're getting some close ones, right? And or some people, like some veterans that are going to give you 1 to 2 more years of value. I mean, shoot, that 1-9 could pull you Pickens and Higgins, right, in a deal, like it, like both potentially, and like so it's who knows, right? But your value is going to be the highest there, and I don't mind moving off that pick. I also, I don't mind moving off the 1 in a super flex, especially if Ward lands somewhere where it's essential and like he's the guy, and I know somebody's really desperate for a quarterback. And if I can just move back 1 spot or something, like target that second person, and kind of force deal.
I think you got to be sure they're not taking Genty at the 1, though. You got to be real sure they're going quarterback, because this is a guy that I think is better than Bijan coming in. Like, I'm talking like this is like our next Saquon Barkley kind of guy.
I do think the hard part about the quarterback thing, Tyler, is in a 10-team league, everybody can have 3 starting quarterbacks on their roster.
I mean, that is true. It just depends on how much they believe in these guys.
Yeah.
But Anyway, so thanks, Texas Trojan, for the question. And we're going to move on to our next portion here. Hot takes. So, one, I want to give a shout out. Amber, thanks for tuning in, giving Steve some love. Dad bod talking about he's had my eyes on Scatabo. Scatabo is not in my eyes, but maybe for some. And then Angie, hey gang, thanks for tuning in. Okay, so this part of the show is meant to create some problems. That's okay. And Matt, I feel bad because your internet gives you like a 3-second lag for when you start talking. So like I have to go, all right, Matt, what's your thoughts? And then it's like,
he's just really gathering.
So like in this conversation, you may do like this first so we know, and then I'll just be like, everybody else shut up. Matt has to speak. Matt's got something to say. But anyways, so Joe, I'm going to let you start us off. So in this section, I need for our viewers, the people that are watching, the people that are hitting the replay, to get the juice, like the stuff that nobody else will say, the things that the calls that no one wants to make, but are the kind of risks or the kind of advantages that we may see that a person could take advantage of that might be a league changer. I mean, last year, if you were taking a shot towards like in the 10th, 11th, 13th round on Terry McLaurin, or if you waited till the 16th, 17th round to take a shot on J.K. Dobbins, like you had some wins. Right. And so that's what we're hitting here. So I need you to bring it home with your Pittsburgh Steelers on and give me your first big hit.
All right. So I'm wearing this because I'm very afraid of TJ Watt leaving the Steelers. He's like doing like wide receiver stuff on his Instagram. It just makes me very uncomfortable. I've got like this really bad track record with jerseys lately of like I get a jersey and then like the player immediately leaves. I got this for Christmas this year, so I'm just like, come on, man. Like, why's it got to be like this? But speaking of Pittsburgh, there's a lot of excitement. We got DK Metcalf. We have George Pickens. They're going to open each other up. I don't think any wide receiver is going to be serviceable in fantasy for this year for Steelers. I think that they're going to continue to run the ball. I don't think that Mason or whoever they trot out there, if they go and get a rookie, I wouldn't touch any Steeler, really anybody, including Warren, Pickens, Metcalf. I wouldn't touch any of those players before the 8th round this year. That would be my barrier to entry, is like make it to the 8th round and I'll consider it.
I've seen Pickens fall as far as the 8th round. Everybody looks at DK to be the number one there. Pickens' value has dropped crazy. You have the Rodgers workout where they're saying like, you got Rodgers out there throwing the ball with DK and there's no Pickens around, and so his stock has fallen. So like Pickens is on my like bargain bin list this year. Like, I can get Pickens like real late, and like, I don't care what they say or who says it. He still steps on the field and he believes he's the best person on the field. So when you have confidence, I think he can still put up numbers.
We can keep feeding his delusion that he's the number one wide receiver as much as we want. He's just not.
Oh, man.
Listen, this is not a knock, but I actually, if my hot take were to play off of the Steelers, it isn't. This is just my take I have right now. The Steelers do not have a wide receiver one right now. Neither of these guys are true wide receiver ones. They're both flashy wide receiver twos. They can't get open. They can't separate. They don't have a good route tree. They are really, really good at circus catches and being big and strong, but they lack that elite upside that would make them a true wide receiver one in this league. And that's why we've never seen it happen. DK Metcalf was the guy in Seattle for years, and it never translated to a wide receiver one season. He never got there. So it's not there. And George Pickens was the only show in town, and there were entire games he'd disappear. And they were throwing to basically janitors. It was him and then like the guy who inflated the football And it was still like just an absolute mess. Like it's just, I think the Steelers really like how like if they had to get into a fist fight, yeah, they got 2 wide receiver ones. Like they're squaring up with anybody, but they got to get open. They got to get open, and those guys do not get open well.
You got Angie in the chat, like Deontay Johnson did last year. Pickens feels a bit like next season's Deontay. Look, I'm going to scrub back a little bit on it, Steve. And maybe I'm partial, maybe I'm biased. I do have a lot of Pickens shares in Dynasty, but when you talk about a player, like the ability, I think separates Pickens. Like DK doesn't make catches like Pickens makes. Like the only person that I've seen make like, I don't remember if you remember that game against the Browns where he did that like over the shoulder back. Like Pickens has superior tracking ability for a wide receiver.
Amazing tracking ability. Yeah, you know why he has amazing tracking ability? Because he constantly needs to use it because he can't get open.
No, he can't get, and he doesn't have to get open. Literally last year we have not the greatest quarterback situation. He didn't even play all the games, and he averaged over 15 yards per catch. He had 900 yards. You know, the season before that he had 1,100 yards. Like, and granted, it's not what we want, but I'm comfortable, and I would put Pickens over many people in the league, especially in contested catches. I put him over DK in contested catches, 100%. Like he's got it, but like if we see Pickens with a viable quarterback, you know, I think. I mean, look at who he's had for his whole career. Who can you give me? I mean, Kenny Pickett with. I'm not saying
he's got. He has had bad quarterbacks. He has had very bad quarterbacks, but.
I mean, and last year he's doing every freaking game. It's only Pickens. So he's catching those balls in double coverage, in triple coverage. You know, like they're cheating over on him every freaking route, and we're still seeing moments where it's really strong. You know, and he's not very far away from several more touchdowns last season. You know, I think he's gotten a bad rap. I think it's a lot with the attitude, but for him, it's a confidence thing. Like you mentioned, Joe, you said, I want a player that steps out on the field and says, I'm the best. I can do this thing. And that's Pickens. It doesn't matter who's in front of him. It doesn't matter what cornerback is. He tore up Patrick Surtain. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. He's willing to go and go at it. Like
if he feels like it.
You know, and the separation thing, sure, he can work on separation, but his catch radius is so big he hasn't had to. But he's still a good athlete. I think he can. I would take if you took George Pickens and you put him in T. Higgins' spot with Joe Burrow throwing the ball, I think he would put up better stats than T. Higgins.
He never has. What do you mean?
T. Higgins has only had Burrow.
I can't get behind that.
T. Higgins has never been the number one option.
Neither has George Pickens till last year.
And last year, what did he do? 900 yards? He went backwards? He became the number one guy, the only show in town, and dropped by 200 yards?
All Steelers. What was this? I mean, I think Russell Wilson threw, a total of like 2,500 yards on the season?
Partly because George Pickens wasn't open.
Right.
Right. He had to catch moon balls in double coverage all year.
And no one was double covering George Pickens last year.
Right,
I don't believe it.
Let's not make this a Steelers show. I like having the little hair that I have left.
It doesn't bother me. Look, it's all fun, and you don't have to get behind it. This is takes, right? Like everybody.
That was a good hot take. It got us talking.
Yeah, right. Like
that was my easy one. Baby. That was my easy one.
I know.
Freaking stir that pot. No, I'm good. I love it. All right, Matt, hit us.
All right, so I don't know if this is going to be crazy enough because I was told that I needed to be called delusional or else this wasn't good enough. So I guess I'll turn it up a little bit. How about Dontavian Wicks finishing as a top 24 receiver this year in an insane breakout? I originally put 36. We bumped it up to 24. But we go back and he charts very well. He's someone who can get open, unlike George Pickens. He charts very well with reception, fantasy points, player profiler. And we saw his ability to command targets, 29.5 targets per route run last year, was over 20% the year before as well. One thing he's been struggling with, especially last year, was drops per player profiler. Caught less than 80% of his catchable targets. Not a great number. LaFleur is also used to playing an entire mix of receivers, but I'm not going to compare them stylistically, talent-wise, but a 6'1", 200-pound receiver going into his third year who has struggled throughout the first 2 years with some drops. Vaguely, that's the story of Devontae Adams. So what if Dontavian Wicks takes the third-year leap like Devontae Adams did and finishes as a wide receiver 2 this year in fantasy?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I hate it. That's crazy.
I don't hate it.
Juicy,
I don't hate it. I think why it won't happen is because they wide receiver by committee so much in Green Bay that there's just not enough opportunity for him, and Jordan Love isn't good enough to make him Devontae Adams. I think that's really the issue you're going to run into.
Well,
I think 36 was absolutely realistic, though, because when he was on the field and he was playing like a good majority of snaps, he did look like the best receiver on that team. So I'm not like totally against this take.
See, here's the thing. Jordan Love is like your ideal parent. Like, he will never have a favorite child. And that's why they don't have an alpha in this offense, because he refuses to like target share to like one guy. He's like, you need to turn and you need to turn and you need to turn. Oh, Christian Watson, you haven't been healthy in 4 weeks. Like, here's a touchdown for you. So it's just like, I don't think that, I just don't see it with the way that Jordan Love plays football, that he hasn't really had a wide receiver one that he supported. So I don't think that it's going to start. So to even have the bump to 2, I think I'm going to have PTSD forever for like the goose egg that Jordan Reed had in the playoffs last year for fantasy. Like, that just burned so many people. And that was a lot of people's guy. So to have like someone who's even lower on that pecking order come up and just kind of take the reins like that, that would shock me.
I'm looking here. 10, 11, 12, 13.
I don't like it.
I don't I still don't love it. I like the 36. Jaden Reed is like right in that window. Like, Jaden Reed was right in that window. So it's like, could Wicks take Reed's role? Like, could we see that nuance or like him put up that production? I mean, it's a tough one, but I don't think it's too far out there to be. I think it is an out there call. Matt, good job. I don't think it's too far out there to be impossible. I personally will not be drafting Wicks as a wide, like in a top 24 wide receiver spot. But if I can get him in a very late round and he can produce that way, I'm in. That'd be awesome.
I mean, he's wide receiver 70 in Dynasty.
So cheap. Throw a third-round pick for him. That guy who we were talking about, his team, should throw one of his third-round picks at Dontavian Wicks. Fill out that wide receiver room.
You could probably get him. You could probably get him for a fourth-round pick, because nobody really knows what's happening in Green Bay enough to give Wicks a solid evaluation. They're probably like, hey, what do you want? I'll give him to you for a fourth in a year from now. Anything. I'm going to have to cut him after the draft anyways. And which, by the way, side note, look in your league for rosters that are really full, because the draft happens and they have picks and you're going to have to make cuts. So usually those rosters are good for a rebuild to pick on, because you can get value, because they're going to have to cut the guys anyway. So they're searching for something. And Wicks is probably on somebody's cut list, right? If their team's stacked in a 10-team super flex, right? So you get them for basically pennies.
Yeah, you say like, hey, I'll give you like 7 fab.
7.
Okay.
I always laugh when those picks roll across. All right, Steve, hit us.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right to my spicier of my 2 takes, and that is that the Miami Dolphins would be better off with Zach Wilson under center than Tua Tagovailoa at this point.
Wow.
So hear me out. Hear me out. Let me cook for a second. The Miami Dolphins offense is not predicated on accuracy. It is very touchdown or check down based. You need a quarterback with a stronger arm and better health. than Tua has given in order to make that offense run. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have essentially been held back by Tua not being able to stretch the field. That offense has been held back by Tua not being able to stretch the field. If they cannot push the ball downfield, that Miami Dolphins offense ceases to work. And we watched it happen last season. At this point, you want someone more built like Zach Wilson than Tua, because Tua is very good in the short game, the intermediate game. That team is not designed that way. It's designed to go deep. They have the two potentially fastest wide receivers in the league, and they're stuck running 10-yard digs. And that's not what you want Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle doing. And it's because Tua's got a noodle arm.
I think it's more the hips than the arm. He just has nothing to throw with from all the injuries.
Look,
but
he's never had a good arm. He's never had a good arm. It's never.
You have Tyler in a concussion stance right now.
Yeah, there's a reality that this could be true, but I think it comes on the back of like a game 3 hit that puts Tua back in this mode, and then we see Zach Wilson. I don't hate it. To me, Zach Wilson does have the arm strength. My worry is like the accuracy, like, which, I mean, if those guys are fast, so sure, they could probably run and get under it. I don't want to see more of like Will Levis, where he like throws the ball to D-Hop and then D-Hop has to stop his route, correct 6 yards the other direction to try to catch it. You know what I mean?
I would also like to point out that Garrett Wilson did better with Zach Wilson than he did with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, because Aaron Rodgers also can't stretch the field. He's like 100 years old. Like,
right. But what I'm saying is that like we really were like killing Zach Wilson as a Jet, right? We were just absolutely destroying this dude. They were better with him. They were better. So Zach Wilson, I've always said Zach Wilson was a victim of circumstance. He got drafted too high and he went to a situation where he wasn't able to develop. I think if you put him in this Miami Dolphins system, that's a pretty good combination. That arm strength with that verticality in that offense, and then give him Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith as his check down options consistently. Zach Wilson is not it's a pretty simplified offense too. Mike McDaniel's very good at like one read, two read, like bang, bang. That is what Zach Wilson will excel at, because it's like, hey, listen, can you throw the ball really hard? He's like, absolutely, I can. Bang. Like, this is the system he will thrive in. They won't do it because they're paying Tua too much money at this point. But if someone said right now, like, hey, listen, you're the head coach, who's your starter? I'd probably go Zach Wilson over Tua.
He said Wilson wasn't playing fresh off a retreat. And the call was big enough that you got the cocaine is a hell of a drug quote from Mad Scientist.
That's a win.
Sure. We have seen lesser do more in the brink of Tua's absence, and there has to be better out there. Zach Wilson, sure, if he gets shot, I'm in. I think
Zach Wilson took over. Does Zach Wilson's career not remind you vaguely of Baker Mayfield?
No, not at all.
Of like overdrafted, way overhyped, big arm, bad accuracy.
No.
Changes teams a couple times, bounces around the league a little bit. Remember, we all love to pretend that Baker Mayfield was like, we were all like, oh yeah, we knew he'd figure it out. Most analysts at this point, 2 years ago, were like, Baker should be out of the fucking league.
So here's my I don't agree with that take personally.
My bad on the language, guys.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't agree with that take because we saw it from Baker went to an awful franchise, like an absolutely awful
like the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Well, the Jets kill everyone.
Like the New York Jets. The difference is Baker takes that franchise and takes them to the playoffs. Zach Wilson ain't even sniffed the playoffs. Baker takes them to the playoffs and wins a playoff game. Then whoever the heck is in the general manager office in Cleveland is sitting there I don't know what he's thinking. He's like, you know what, guys, I got an idea. Baker's done okay for us. He's got it to the playoffs, which we don't get to hardly ever. But what if we could get our hands on Deshaun Watson? So let's pay him $260 million guaranteed and bring in him, and we'll send Baker to the woods. Baker wasn't bad. Baker won more games than them, and they saw in the last 10 years.
And he played pretty hurt on that shoulder his last year that he was with the Browns to try to gut it out.
So I think that Baker got a bad rap for actual production in a team that needed bad. I mean, who you think about it right now? Who was Baker's top receiver?
Amari Cooper.
When did he get Cooper?
He would have had Landry and Cooper, right?
Yeah. I think he had Landry and Cooper. Let me put it this way, right? Baker's last year in Cleveland, 60% completion percentage, 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Zach Wilson's last season in New York in 12 games, 60% completion, 2,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. It looked awfully similar.
Yeah,
it looked awfully similar.
From the stats, sure, but Baker busted up his shoulder like week 4 of that season and pretty much just played through I think he had an AC joint thing in his throwing arm that he played through the whole year. They didn't protect him from himself. He's not the kind of player that's sit out. He's going to try to gut it out and play. So I think that last year you can pretty much just throw out.
Right. And
I mean, maybe, but
I mean, I get the take. But I think that it went south for me when the comparison was Baker. But I do think that Zach Wilson has some ability. I think that if he can throw downfield, if Tua does get hurt, sure, I buy it. I'm with it. But don't you be dogging Baker up in this show.
I will dog Baker because we watch. It's not only we just saw him in Cleveland too. He went to the Carolina Panthers, was awful there. Went to the Rams, played one game, right? Went to the Buccaneers the next year, was okay. It took time. Some of these guys, we have lost all ability to be patient with quarterbacks in the NFL. Some guys take time. Baker Mayfield took time. I think Zach Wilson was going to take time. Guys like Anthony Richardson were going to take time.
Baker didn't take time. Baker's rookie season, he finished QB 16. The next 2 years, QB 18, threw over 3,500 yards. All 3 of those seasons, the first 3 seasons of his career. Zach Wilson's best quarterback finish in fantasy is 29, and the most yards he's ever thrown in a season is 2,300. They're not even on the same level.
I just think the situations were so different.
Baker went to a worse team. The Browns
with a more willing offense. I mean, Zach Wilson's best wide receiver was Garrett Wilson, and then a bunch of nothing.
All right, Tyler, it's not so fun when you have the gun. What's your take for the week?
Well, you already slammed my take. Which a lot of it depends, but if the Steelers can get a quarterback, I was going to say that Pickens will not only outperform DK, but will have over 1,000 yards.
It's not unreasonable. I think that's okay.
Well, I mean, apparently it's unreasonable. Y'all just talked about him like he was.
I'll talk my talk about George Pickens and DK Metcalf. I mean, give him a good enough quarter. Someone has to catch passes, right? I mean, someone's got to put up yards. Just by default, you'd figure someone would go for 1,000.
Yeah,
here's a spicier one for you, Tyler, relating that situation. George Pickens is not a Steeler week 1.
Woo! Here's the thing. If that is the case, if George Pickens is not a Steeler week 1, if you put him, can you imagine this? Can you imagine a world where Pickens goes, anywhere with a feasible quarterback? Even he goes last year, Kansas City, they bring in DeAndre Hopkins, hoping to get somebody that can play downfield and catch passes in traffic. Hopkins has done his time. It's not really there anymore. You put Pickens in that role, and all of a sudden it looks totally different.
Yeah, but you see the role models in that wide receiver room, that just seems like a really bad place for him to go.
Though he's spicy, Pickens is not like, I mean, when's the outside of college, when's the last time you heard off-field troubles for George Pickens?
Off the field, no, he's just a goofy dude.
He's just mean, and he enjoys being mean. I've never seen somebody just punk cornerbacks on the line for fun.
I've never seen someone get into a fist fight during a Hail Mary instead of trying to catch the ball before.
Can I pitch a great landing spot for George Pickens? And I think it would actually he would thrive. Houston.
Oh yeah.
Give him DeMeco Ryans, who is a strong-willed human being, right? If he had a head coach who could kick the shit out of him, sorry again, I swore again, who could beat him up. If you had a head coach that you could beat you up, George Pickens' attitude would change. Because you're not pulling that on DeMeco Ryans, right? You're not going to get in his. What are you going to do to him? One of the best linebackers of his time? No, you're not doing it. You're not getting away with it. He'll square up with you right there on the sidelines, put you right in your place, give you a quick 1-2. You better be back out on that field ready to run a slant route or something. You better be ready. I think Houston could be a great landing spot for George Pickens if he is no longer a Steeler.
I don't hate it. I'm good. I'm with it.
Give the Steelers Christian Kirk. They wanted him last year. Broke the collarbone. Didn't have it happen.
I think Christian Kirk could be a good fit in Pittsburgh, right? You need someone who can kind of do that short intermediate game. That's what they're missing, right? You know who they need is Deontay Johnson.
I mean, you probably could get him for pretty cheap right now.
Yeah, right now no one wants him. I think he's kind of going through that. I think he's on his Antonio Brown arc right now. So something's up with him.
Rusty, what's up? Mad Scientist said Pickens and DK will be fighting Mortal Kombat style on the sideline by the end of week 1. Maybe, sure. Okay, so Joe, number 2.
Okay, so my number 2, it actually ties into Steve's a little bit, but I think that once again, I think that Tyreek Hill is a bust this year. He's currently being drafted as wide receiver 12. I don't see him finishing as a top 25 wide receiver in 2025. I think that he's falling off. I think that combine that with the legal troubles that he's currently into, again, the question marks they have at QB, the emergence of a healthy season from Jalen Waddle, I think that if you draft Tyreek Hill, it's just going to be a mistake. So I don't know if it's that crazy. He's over the age of 30, which is kind of like the wide receiver cliff. He's avoided it so far, but I would say he's probably going to finish in the wide receiver 28 to 30 range, which is, considering last year he was a first round pick, I think it's a pretty steep fall off and it's happening very rapidly. So I'm trying to get rid of him anywhere that I can if I have him in Dynasty.
It's like Steve said, it's the quarterback thing. There's struggles there, and Tyreek needs to get the ball. He needs to get the ball in space. It just, I'm with it. It's a really hard offense for him to do, and he has to do it a lot. But smart by Tyreek Hill. If you noticed, even last year, he took on a lot of that Tyler Lockett style of play, where hey, I want to stay on the field, so I'm not going to take hits, right?
You just hold the knee button, then you just fall.
Yeah. And so that was him last year. And the problem was he did get the ball sometimes on some quick breaks where he could get it and he would go score. But for the most part, if he got those underneath, he got into traffic or somebody was close to him, he just goes down. So I think that's accurate. I think that if I'm definitely not drafting him in round 1 capital personally.
No, I'm not drafting him in wide receiver 1 territory either at this point. The problem with Tyreek Hill was always going to be when he lost even a half a step, he was going to become a lot less effective, right? His game was so predicated on being just faster than everybody else that he's very Deshaun Jackson-esque, better than Deshaun Jackson was, but that's kind of his comp. And we saw what happened to Deshaun Jackson. When the wheels started to come off, that was it. It was kind of over very quickly. And I think you could be absolutely right. That wide receiver 30 finish probably isn't all that crazy. It sounds like a hot take. It should be a hot take, but I think you're actually right.
Yeah, and when you start looking at the names who are in that realm, you have Zay Flowers, wide receiver 25, Romes at 26, Metcalf 27, Tet 28, Cortland Sutton, Jordan Addison. There's a lot of wide receiver 2-esque talent. It's just a matter of who's in the best situation. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, last one for the night.
Funny enough, my next hot take actually ties directly into what you just said. Rome Odunze is much closer to a Jameson Williams type player than he is to an Amon-Ra type player in this Ben Johnson offense. I think a lot of people are hyping him up, and his value is skyrocketing now that Ben Johnson is the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Rome is not a good separator. It's the number one issue that wide receivers have in the NFL. It's why even guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., I wasn't as hyped for as I was for like a Malik Neighbors. If you cannot create separation, there are not enough elite quarterbacks to carry that. The problem that Rome has right now is that DJ Moore is a far superior route runner, and Caleb Williams is not an elite thrower of the football. He is not good enough to carry George Pickens, very similar kind of player, Rome Odunze, through his route running struggles. You are going to get a lot of boomer bust out of Rome this season, next season, and probably going forward. You are going to see the games with 150 yards, but you're also going to see the games with like 25 because a good corner can lock him down pretty easily. But he is fast enough to get lost in space when people overcommit to DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, and then probably some running back that they get in the second round, like a Travion Henderson or someone along those lines, right? I wouldn't even be shocked if the Chicago Bears draft another wide receiver to replace Keenan Allen. You know what I mean? Like if Rome was that good, if he was that good, last year they wouldn't have signed Keenan Allen, right? They would have just been like, hey, listen, we got him in the top 10. We have DJ Moore. Let's go sling it. He couldn't even beat out Keenan Allen, who didn't look like Keenan Allen anymore. I'm worried. I'm kind of out on Rome at this point.
I don't. Sure. So let me ask you this, and we'll shift to our last section. We're trying to knock this out in about 10 minutes here because we are a little bit over showtime. But so in a value check standpoint, right? We've talked about a lot of players tonight. In a value check standpoint, where and I guess for the sake of conversation, maybe the easiest way to align it for somebody watching the show would be like in a draft capital standpoint. Like if you could put a round on it, what round is Rome Odunze for you?
7.
I was going to say 7 to 8 range as well. I think it seems fair. The upside is obviously there. He has the premium capital, but I don't think I could touch him with the first 6 picks. He's an at best flex kind of option. I would
strong, yeah, like a flex option. That's your boomer bust kind of guy.
Okay. So I'm with that. I don't know if it's a risk to me taking them that high. Like there's other people, like I would rather have a Jameson for the boom potential that seemed to happen like every game towards the end of the season as they got more and more integrated for him in the offense. Now, I don't know what that looks like with Ben Johnson out, but we'll see. There's obviously going to be some players that people are debating about, and I'm going to start just kind of with one that I think last year was a deep grab in comparison to value, and that was Terry McLaurin. Obviously, we have a quarterback in Washington now that is hope you got him in Dynasty.
So good.
So, and I knew he was going to be. He was my top quarterback coming in out of that class, and mostly because I'm an Arkansas fan. And I remember we were stomping LSU, and they put in Jaden Daniels at halftime, and he comes out 4 touchdowns, leads them back to beat us. And I'm like, gosh, he's so good, And then we see it last year. I mean, just more of that, like, let me just when there's nothing there, he's that guy. It's like, let me make something happen. You know what I mean? Love it. Love the quarterback. Obviously McLaurin gets a little bit of competition and Debo there. I don't really think so, but sure. A little bit of competition. Noah Brown replacement, except for not a deep guy, more slot. But where are we putting McLaurin at in redraft this year?
I'm probably lower than consensus on him because a lot of his production last year came through the touchdowns, and he had a huge touchdown share, and I just don't see it repeating. A lot of games he had like low reception totals, but 2 touchdowns, and it looked really nice. I probably in like 5th, 6th round, maybe 7th.
Okay, so my question was going to be, I think that from what I've seen, he seems to be going pretty consistently in the 4th round of drafts, like let's say 12 team. Is that too early? Or are you in at a 4th round value?
I'm out.
I think it's fair. I would probably go for it. I think for me, thinking about the way that the draft would fall, I'm more of a hero running back kind of guy. So I'm probably taking a running back within the first 2 rounds. So then Terry would probably be like the 3rd wide receiver that I'm taking there. And I feel really comfortable with him as like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. I have no concern about Deebo Samuel whatsoever. They do like to throw a lot of screens in Washington. I think Deebo's going to be a good fit for that part of the game, but I think that hurts the running backs more. I think that he will allow Terry. Yeah, I think he'll allow Terry to do what Terry does. And I think that Terry's value is going to continue to decline. I think he ends up being like a 5th round kind of guy there. To me, it's a smash in the 5th. I feel good about it in the 4th, but it's not like easy money. I think it's just like it's fair value. But he's already shown what he's capable of with Daniels. That rapport isn't going to get worse. I feel really good about it.
All right, Steve, what's your value check? What's somebody you're curious where the consensus is at on him?
For me, it's Najee Harris. I think
good one.
I think this is a guy who could potentially lead the league in rushing touchdowns, and I wouldn't be that shocked about it. He is a thumper. Is he elite at getting big plays? No. Is he really good at getting you 4 yards? He absolutely is. And Jim Harbaugh loves a guy who can do that. They didn't bring back Dobbins. They didn't bring back Gus Edwards. And now it looks like Najee Harris is kind of the guy. And if they don't bring in someone to really compete with him, I like this situation a lot more than I liked him in Pittsburgh. And the Chargers know how to score. They know how to move the ball. I think he could go for 12, 13 touchdowns this year and be a potentially an RB1 for you. And you're probably getting him close to double-digit rounds.
I don't know if it's double digits. I think I've seen the average consensus around 7.
His underdog ADP has him at running back 24, which would put him at an ADP of 71.
So round 7. So like if round 6 or 7, is that too early? Or are you in on him that much?
I'm probably in on him there.
Okay, and then if Chargers take a running back in day 2 of the draft, does that change it?
It gets dicey at that point. It definitely does. It depends on who it is. Now, if it's, I guess if they take a day 2 guy, like if they take an Ollie Gordon, I'm worried, right? Like I'd be really worried. But if they wait, if they sit back and go, you know what? We got him, we got Kamani Vidal, and we're rolling, like fire me up for Najee Harris, even in the 5th, and I'd be good.
Man, see if they wanted to bring a compliment, what they'll do is they'll wait really late and then they'll grab Dylan Sampson.
Dylan Sampson's nasty.
I know he is, and he can do sideways stuff, which Najee can't, though he tries. Najee's always like that. Like his jump cut is so long.
it's like, really long. Najee Harris needs to realize what he's really good at. What Najee Harris, he's a great athlete. He's just not a great lateral athlete. And I think he needs to realize that. He wants to go side to side. Yeah, exactly. Because he can hurdle people too. Like he has crazy bounce. He just needs to work on that stiff arm, man. Like use that. You're so strong. What are you doing?
Derrick Henry does it well. Derrick Henry is a straight line. Like it's going to take me a second to get going, but once I get full steam, like it's done.
Good luck,
right?
Yeah.
And you don't see him go sideways. He does not go sideways ever. Najee needs to develop. He needs to put on a little bit of meat. He needs to freaking hammer. Okay, Joe, give us a value check.
All right, so the value check that I wanted to do was for George Kittle. He's currently being drafted as tight end 3. I know that there's a lot of question marks about kind of like the receiving situation in San Francisco, but it seems pretty steep for me right now, just because we don't really know who that option is. Kittle has been sometimes forgotten. I mean, obviously you have Bowers, McBride. I think that Mark Andrews, Jonnu Smith being slept on a bit. I probably wouldn't take Kittle over them, but for me, it's like I would rather take a running back or a wide receiver over drafting Kittle early.
What's his ADP?
That's where I'm at more so than like, there's tight ends that I feel better about. It's just that like the value at him at tight end 3, like I like is being overdrafted. Like I wouldn't want to take him round 5 now.
What's his overall ADP?
Overall ADP on Underdog is 52.
Man, I'm on it tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too early. That's too early for those one-off positions. My boy Eric over on IBT says this all the time. One-off positions, you either get the best or you wait, right? Like, and George Kittle, I don't know. I'm starting to feel like that age is going to catch up to him quickly. And tight end 3 in the 5th round, I just have other needs. And I think tight end's actually deeper than people want to really realize this year.
Yeah. I'm notorious for punting tight end and quarterback in redraft for a long time. Yeah. You know, that's just I'll typically go running back heavy. I'll try to grab me a couple studs, and then tight end, I'll go deep. I'll grab Hunter Henry and roll with it. You know what I mean? Like I mean, you can get production out of some deeper guys. I mean, if you grabbed Jonnu Smith last year, you didn't even have to draft him. You picked him up off waivers, and at the end of the year, you were like,
there's always one. There's always one tight end like that. I don't know why. There always is.
100%. And like, you know, you can get guys so much later, like, you know, Evan Ingram. You can get Evan Ingram significantly later. You know, like there's just so much out there. And then, you know, rookies, and Zach Ertz. You can get Zach Ertz super late. You know, like there's going to be people out there that can provide
Don't
value.
sleep on David Njoku either.
Yeah, if they need a quarterback, but yeah,
they signed Flacco.
Flacco will pepper.
I know. I saw the Flacco. I don't know if that counts. I mean,
it does for Njoku.
Yeah, I mean, old man Flacco's still out there grinding. All right, guys, that's we'll have to tab in some more value checks next time as we start to get in and as we creep closer to the draft, which I don't know about you guys, but I am pumped for. The Fantasy Sports Advice Network will be live in Nashville for the draft, broadcasting from the Crow's Nest Bar and Grill. We will be live on 101.5, and it is going to be a good time. So you ain't going to want to miss that. Make sure that you have your draft time set up because you're going to want our takes more than you're going to want to listen to what you hear on TV. Now, it's going to be a good time, good vibes, good time. And if you're in the Nashville area, come out and see us, the Crow's Nest Bar and Grill. Steve, man, what a pleasure. I know we just a little bit, but that's okay.
It's the best part. That's the best part of fantasy football, man. It's all about the takes, right?
Yeah.
And you know, if everyone drafted the exact same way, that'd be no fun.
Well, it's a pretty generic model. Like I watch you and Seth, banter in your show, and it is more often than you disagree than you agree. And so I think that just I appreciate the not willing to settle, like you have your takes, you own them. Like that's when you're in the space and you're delivering, like own your takes. And there's so many that are so like flaky about it. Like, I don't know, maybe. And like, we've literally swayed kind of like in talk swayed, thought points, which does happen. But like, I appreciate it. I appreciate the commitment to it. Joe, it's always a pleasure. Sorry for the crew that we went a little bit over tonight, but again, appreciate you for tuning in. We will see you next week on From the Forum, 9:00 Central Time. Have a good night.
Verizon over AT&T, baby.
We are here. We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySports